Hello, everyone. This is Jim Biringer here, NHLRumors.com. Please smash that subscribe button, hit that notify bell. Stay in tune to NHL Rumors here on YouTube. Please like this video as well. We're back for another Rumors video. We talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the decisions that they have to make, how it's going to be an end of an era. Now, of course, Toronto could be Toronto and they could run the whole thing back and nobody would be surprised. But it feels like in the case of Mitch Marner, he's going to market for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's going to test the market. He's going to test the waters to see what's out there. It's going to do him best to change the scene, and I think it's going to do best for the Toronto Maple Leafs to change the scene and change the makeup of this team, because what they had over the last 9 seasons hasn't worked. And let's be honest, I think it would benefit Marner and benefit the team. Yes, you lose a 100-point player, but you can put your team together the right way and don't do the same mistakes over and over again, because locking guys up $11-12 million, you don't have other, enough money to fill other roles. So I think Marner's going to go to market. He's going to test the market. Now he can do a Stamkos thing, but I think, teams like Vegas will be looking at him. Utah, obviously, they tried to trade for him, as documented at the NHL draft last year. Names like Florida, Carolina. Carolina is an interesting thing here because, as I wrote on NHLRumors.com, yes, while the Carolina Hurricanes want to be aggressive, and while they're still in the Stanley Cup playoffs facing elimination to the Florida Panthers, everybody talks about, oh, it's not a destination, it's not a destination. Maybe it is a destination, but the owner doesn't want to pay players to stay in that destination. We go back to last year, Jake Getzel, they trade for him. According to GM Eric Tulsky, they were up against the cap and really couldn't do it. And also, not to mention, they had other irons in the fire, and they put some things ahead of Getzel before they, wanted to sign him. He goes to Tampa. Now they trade for Mikko Rantanen. They couldn't get him locked in, and that was a parameter with that trade. They probably should have gotten him locked in right away on that trade, and they didn't do it. That's what Dallas did. Was Tom Dundon really going to pay Mikko Rantanen 12 million, 12 and a half, 13, maybe 14 million? That's more than what Aho's making. Remember, that was kind of a negotiation with Sebastian Aho. They waited for the offer sheet to come from Montreal, and they're like, okay, we'll take it. And then they signed him. While Carolina is going to be aggressive and they're going to have money to spend and cap space to use, will they use it? Again, were they going to really pay Dougie Hamilton $9 million to stay? New Jersey pays him $9 million, he goes. Yes, he's involved. Yes, he wants to win, but ultimately it comes down to, does he want to spend? And if he spends, then Carolina can retool their offense. But if they don't spend, Mitch Marner's not going to Carolina. As much as they want to go after him, will Tom Dundon give him $13 million? The answer right now is no, because clearly that's been the past with the Carolina Hurricanes. We mentioned the Florida Panthers. They have a couple of free agents as well. Brad Marchand, Aaron Ekblad, Sam Bennett. Obviously, if Sam Bennett leaves Florida, he could get $10 million someplace. And is he a $10 million player? No. Probably could get $9 million from some places. Some places are reporting that Toronto's going to be interested in him. He could end up staying in Florida. Look, we could see the same thing we saw last year with Reinhart, right? After Florida won the Stanley Cup, they signed him right before free agency. Same thing could happen with Sam Bennett, and he fits perfectly in Florida. He is, the value of a $10 million player, and he's going to take like a discount to stay because of no state income tax. That would make sense because he fits Paul Maurice's system. Not to say he's not going to be an effective player elsewhere. He was very effective in Calgary, but the system that the Florida Panthers run fits his style of game. Will he fit in other places? Yes, we know what he can do in the playoffs, but the regular season, 51 points, a career high. Are you really want to overspend on a guy like that? Not to mention the UFA crop is not the best this year. Bennett, Ekblad, Marchand, obviously Brock Besser, Mitch Marner, Nikolai Ehlers. In addition, Marchand, it feels like Marchand's going to stay in Florida. He just fits so well in that third line with Utu Lesterainen and Anton Lundell, that new look third line. He's got new energy, new life to his game. Perfect addition to the Florida Panthers. Why not stay in the Sunshine State, maybe the new state of hockey, as I like to call it. As far as Aaron Ekblad, there were reports last year from Dave Pagnotta that they were looking to try to move him, free up some cap space. The issue is if you try to move Aaron Ekblad, how are you going to replace him, right? They had to get Seth Jones to get, that right shot D. It's hard to find right shot D. Does Ekblad take a discount to stay? Again, right shot defensemen don't grow on trees unless they have somebody in the system that they believe can take his spot. I could see a short-term deal for Aaron Ekblad in the Florida Panthers. Very interested to see what they do, what Carolina does, Toronto. I mentioned Nikolai Ehlers. The Winnipeg Jets are going to make him a priority this offseason. He's a goal scorer. He's played so well for the Winnipeg Jets. They're going to have some conversations about it. He's probably going to go to market. There were trade rumors last offseason in regards to Ehlers. He ends up staying, helps the Winnipeg Jets get the President's Trophy. Was when he came back in the playoffs after some injuries. He was very effective. He's very effective over at the Worlds to help Denmark upset Canada. Look, the injury history is an issue. Teams are going to be hesitant to give Nikolai Ehlers a lot of money and a long-term deal if he cannot stay healthy. He can fit in Winnipeg. Maybe he goes to Vegas. Again, Vegas, a team like no one wants to sleep on the Vegas Golden Knights. Everybody's saying about their demise and they're older. Yes, they're older. Their defense looks slow. Edmonton made them look slow. But the last time those two teams played, they had Jonathan Marchessault, the Vegas Golden Knights did. They don't have him this time. He's out in Nashville. Maybe they try to get him back. Maybe, somebody else tries to trade for Marchessault. There's some rumors down there in Nashville that, you sign two of the same player in Stamkos and Marchessault. Marchessault not on the same page as a head coach. Maybe they figure out a way to move him again, but he has a no move clause, so it's going to be tough to move him. Pavel Dorofeyev did a great job, but he got injured in the playoffs. Does Vegas try to take a run at Marner or Nikolai Ehlers to fill that gap that Marchessault left? Again, they didn't want to pay him to stay. Bill Zito down in Florida pays guys to stay. They take those hometown discounts. Kelly McCrimmon's about winning and the hockey business. However, if you look at it, will they be willing to spend on big-time players without moving players out? Maybe that's the type of hockey trade you look at if you're the Vegas Golden Knights or another team. Say, for instance, Toronto and Vegas to sign and trade potentially there. You're going to get some good players back from the Vegas Golden Knights, but they would have to do some work there. But Vegas needs a goal scorer. LA Kings spoke with Dennis Bernstein. Fourth period, he wrote it. He talked about it. They need that fourth piece, right? Kevin Fiala's 35 goal scorer. Adrian Kempe, 35 goal scorer. Quentin Byfield's up there as well. You get another piece, maybe a Brock Besser, an Ehlers, maybe a Mitch Marner. We know LA's been linked to him for a while. So they bring that fourth piece in. Maybe that puts them over the hump. Down the middle is going to be set. That's something Ken Holland, the new general manager, is going to have to look at down the road for another center as Kopitar gets older. Philip Deneau's really a third-line center on this team. So the Kings have some work there to do in regards to, who they bring in. Going to be interesting to see what some teams do around the league as well. Like, again, if you look at it, the free agent crop isn't the greatest. Everybody kind of figures Brock Besser is going to leave Vancouver. And, Vancouver, very interesting team because, yes, they hired Adam Foote, but everything talks about Quinn Hughes. Is Quinn Hughes going to leave? When will he leave? When Jim Rutherford talks about, oh, hey, he wants to go play with his brothers. You got to get the mission statement right in Vancouver for him to stay, or else he could be out the door. And all the leverage is with Quinn Hughes if he wants to go to New Jersey and play with his brothers there. Because let's be honest, New Jersey isn't sending Luke Hughes and Quinn Hughes to Vancouver in any type of package. They're not giving up a number one defenseman and a number one center for, just to send them to Vancouver so he could play with his brothers up there. That's not going to happen. So going to be very interested to see what happens there. New York Rangers, obviously, they're going to look to make some changes around their roster. Mika Zibanejad's name's out there. Chris Kreider's name's out there. Keandre Miller's name continues to be out there. As they look to reshape this thing, as they try to be a contender, it's going to be very tough in that division. New York Islanders hired a new general manager, Matthew Darsh. He's got some work to do on that roster. Buyouts potentially for Scott Mayfield, Pierre Engvall. Did they re-sign Kyle Palmieri? That was a quote-unquote handshake deal. Same with Adam Boquist. Who did they take at the number one pick? They want to get younger. How does him and Patrick Waugh look at the roster the same way? Because we know Waugh took some subtle shots at the GM about the roster that hasn't changed since they went to back-to-back conference finals. That was a few years ago now. So very interested to see how things play out around this summer. again, we could see some more trades, potential offer sheets heading into, well, the offer sheets will come in the summer, but more trades leading up into the NHL draft in Los Angeles. And maybe as free agency starts, and obviously everybody looks at Connor McDavid and his potential extension, that probably is going to happen. I understand the chatter. He's definitely going to stay in Edmonton. Why wouldn't he? His buddies there, Leon Draisaitl, the best duo right now, and they're on the verge potentially of winning a Stanley Cup, and he's on a mission. So does it happen July 1? Maybe not. Does it happen in August like Draisaitl? Probably. I would think that's when it happens. So, guys, stay tuned. NHLrumors.com, the website here, NHL Rumors on YouTube. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Jim Biringer. Take care. We'll be back again real soon.